Hey guys, it's me, Sharmise, and I'm back with another module for my segment of Public Speaking with Professor Mo. Still driving, living my best life because my baby's asleep. So this is going to be module 6, and I thought it was funny because I was reviewing all my modules and I put who gonna check me. So this particular module is discussing credibility. And I think it's super important as a public speaker. If you appear to be the expert, you have to have done some form of research. You have to show the people that you know what you're talking about, whether it's you playing on your experience or the research that you've done. So for all intents and purposes, my dry erase board is somewhere, but it's not clean. So we are going to talk about oral citations while you are speaking, aka name dropping, and we are also going to talk about your bibliography, and we're going to talk about the volume of research that you should do. So in no particular order, I definitely want to dive into the volume of research that you should do. How many sources should you have? If you are doing a speech, like an informative speech, a lot of times, depending on the topic that you have designated, you might be playing on your own experience. You might be doing a speech on, how to bake cookies or how to make brownies, how to install lashes, how to buy and resell sneakers. Those are just some examples of speeches that former students have done, and they'll, email me, hey, Professor Mo, do I still need to cite a source because I'm the source? Baby, you're not the source. You weren't the first person to do what you're talking about. Let's dive a little deeper. So one of my students who did a brownie recipe, she researched like the first brownie recipe ever. And she cited that person and she shared the recipe. It was dense as all get out, but she did, share that recipe with the class. Whatever your topic is, even if you have done this thing or you're knowledgeable about this topic for X amount of years, you still should be able to cite something and share something with the audience to give more validity to your topic and more credibility to the information that you are sharing and saying. Some of the sources that you could use are various articles, various news things, various, trending articles within the news. You could also use different books. You could use your textbook for the class. That's classic, You could also use YouTube. Now, when you're doing YouTube, it's important to not just say, according to a YouTube video I saw, you have to talk about, the influencer or whoever published the YouTube video, and you have to make sure that you share the title as well as the, publishing date or posting date of said YouTube video. You could also do different survey banks or journals. A lot of people do health journals, medical journals, things of that nature. But there are so many different options for you to name drop and just make sure you put that information into your speech. Continuing to talk about, the volume that you should share. When I grade, I generally say you should have at least 2 oral citations. You should have 2 separate sources to share while you are speaking. I have had students do exactly 2, which is cute. I'm above that. I think I'm a little bit better than that. 2 is a minimum, So to give you an example, maybe these speeches have been 5 minutes to 7 minutes. And in the midst of that, my overachieving students, some of my most accomplished babies, have, shared 7 to 10 sources. How beautiful is that you wanted to give so much credibility that you share multiple news sources or articles or books or surveys. Another thing that you can do is if you've done a survey in your class or in your school on your social media, that's also kind of a source. That's a form of statistic that you could share just to, again, show that you've done your due diligence within your subject matter. So if you did a Facebook survey or an Instagram survey, a Snapchat survey. Try to be more with the times. But if you did a survey on your social media, you could say, according to my social media survey that I launched over the course of 1 week, 60 students agreed that, strawberry jelly is better than grape jelly. You have then added a source in to add just a little bit more validity. Now, that's definitely opinion based, but that was off the top of my head. So a survey that you have conducted yourself is still some form of research, and you can definitely add that into your speech. So volume matters. Not citing your sources at all says a lot. So if you are giving a speech about a certain subject and you are just talking, and you don't say any type of sources or information, it's like, where did you get this from? Just your brain? Did you just look on the internet and not see whether it is a viable source? Is it a credible source that is worth sharing? I think it's important to know that if you give a speech and you say all the things, but you have not cited one source, it's a problem. So there is strength in numbers. If you pick a topic, it's super important to, again, be passionate about the topic you're talking about, be interested in the topic you're talking about, and be willing to do additional research for the topic that you are talking about. So now that we've talked about volume and, how many sources you should potentially cite within the speech, let's talk about your oral citations. Within your speech, again, you should be name dropping. You should be sharing information that you have researched to give you a more polished speech, to add credibility to your speech, to... You know how, when you name drop, it just makes you, more cool. Obviously, this is not a popularity contest. When you name drop in a public speech, it gives you more credibility. It gives you more oomph. It adds validity to anything that you're saying because you have added some form of reference. Reference. So within your speech, you should definitely be using some oral citations. So whenever I suggest oral citations to my students, my introductory way to do so is to say, according to. You always want to segue into it. So if I were going to say according to, I'll cite my own book. According to Charmise Morency, author of Things I Wish Someone Had Told Me Before I Started College, published in 2016, it says, boom, that is your oral citations. So maybe you say, according to the Mayo Clinic in an article published, blah, blah, blah. According to YouTube influencer, blah, blah, blah. You have to give some type of indication that you about to name drop. So according to is a really great way to do so. Another thing you could do to cite a source is say this person writes. So I'll again use myself. Charmise Morency writes, and then you could share whatever that person wrote, I wrote, and then you could reference the book. So according to this person writes, this person stated, or you could say in an article published by so-and-so, titled such and such, published such and such. You have to share the author's name. You have to share the full title of said article, book, video, whatever, and you should share when it is published. Speaking about publishing, you want to give the most current research, current information. Don't nobody want an article from 2000. There's probably something a little bit more relevant. So make sure that you're keeping up with the relevant articles, books, or information according to your topic. So you definitely want to name drop multiple times within your speech. If you have 2 to 3 main points, you might want to have 2 to 3 points of reference or more to just add a little bit of oomph of whatever you are sharing and discussing. So author's name, full title, and publication date. If there is no publication date, if there is no author, find a different article. I've had students say like, there is no author, but this is it. No, baby. Does that help you feel more valid? It doesn't. There has to be. There should be something better for you to share. If you are a high school or college student, there's more than likely multiple databases that you have access to, not just Google. So get into a scholarly journal and do a deep dive for the information that you know is going to be scholarly. It's going to be credible. So make sure that you have that author's name and you have a full title and a publication date. Okay? So those are the things that I would be looking for. I'm looking to hear a full oral citation as you are communicating. Speaking of authors' names, it's super important to know how to pronounce said author's name. That plays into your credibility. I have had students do speeches and they go to say someone's name and they butcher it. And it says something about your lack of preparation, or maybe you rushed within your research that you didn't even glance at that person's name. So make sure that you actually pronounce the person who you are citing or referring to correctly. If you have a laptop, a tablet, or a phone, generally you can look up the phonetics of how to pronounce someone's name. So just be mindful of that. And then another thing that we're supposed to talk about is the bibliography. In your extremely detailed preparation outline, at the conclusion, you should have your sources cited page. You should have multiple points of reference. When you have that information, it just doubles down on everything you shared throughout your speech. If you are not knowledgeable on how to do your bibliography, I highly suggest looking up some reference points or some information from your school, because there's probably something that you could use. But I always recommend Purdue Owl, or you could just do find a citation engine. There's multiple citation engines, especially if you're not using a scholarly journal. If you're using a database that has a scholarly journal, 9 times out of 10, on the right side or the left side, there's something that you can click on that will copy and paste the APA or MLA style of reference for you, the citation for you. But say you do a YouTube video or a book or something that you have on hand, or you're in the library and you have something on hand, you may want to use a citation engine or look at Purdue Owl of how to properly set up everything for it to be properly cited. So a search engine or citation engine or Purdue Owl should help you figure out exactly how to do a proper citation at the conclusion of your bibliography, because that's something that I'm looking for. And in the past, I've seen citations, references at the end of a bibliography, and in the speech, I ain't heard no oral citations. Those go hand in hand. Everything that you put in your preparation outline should translate to the information that you're sharing orally in your speech, as well as the inclusion of whatever references that you have. So today we talked about who gonna check me. If I am in the audience, I'm checking to see if you're name dropping, if you are using oral citations. You are not the expert. You are not the creator of the subject matter. Now, there are some instances where you might be the creator, so that is the disclaimer. But do yourself a favor and name drop in your speech. Add some credibility, add some validity, so that the people know that you've done proper research, adequate research about whatever information you're sharing. For an informative speech especially, you definitely need that information. For a persuasive speech especially, you need that information. If you are having an audience of people and you are responsible for sharing information, teaching information, training and things of that nature, I think it can be advantageous to have a myriad of references from all walks of life. People buy into that. When people see that you've done adequate research, it just adds that razzle, that dazzle. It is a necessity. A speech without proper references just says you talked about it off of the brain, and people will notice. And when I say people, I mean me. And I mean other people that really just, like, yeah, I'm hearing it from the horse's mouth, but, like, is it valid? Is it cool? Did you get this off a wiki? Like, make it make sense. So, again, do yourself a favor, and whatever topic you're discussing, add some additional research. Do a deep dive on your topic. See what new information you can share. That could add more relatability to your subject matter. That will add, obviously, more credibility to your subject matter. And it will add length too. Sometimes speeches are too short because you haven't had enough opportunity to really get to the meat of the speech or to the meat of your main points. So any additional research will be better for you and for the audience. And you want the audience to walk away knowing that they learned some things, maybe things they didn't know, maybe a statistic, a story. A lot of times it's statistics or stories or just something to further echo your point. But you can't go wrong with research. So just know that you are not the expert in most instances, and it's super important to research. When you do your research, you should create a bibliography, and you should also do oral citations within your speech. And that is what we talked about today. So if I were going to do a discussion question, how would you segue or how would you introduce your reference points? Would you say, would you say, as stated by, would you say this person reads? What would you say? How would you segue into all of your reference points? All right, I'll see you guys next time.